The steam rose first, thick and blinding, curling through the early morning air like a living thing. It hit the platform, hit the tracks, hit the faces of people standing only a few steps away. In that moment of white noise and hissing heat, when the world felt suspended between arrivals and departures, Mira felt the small, cold weight slip into her palm. Before she could look down, before she could ask a single question, the train whistle screamed, sharp and final, and everything began to move. Mira had never liked train stations. They were too honest. No matter how carefully people dressed or how confidently they walked, stations stripped them down to their truths. Lovers clung to each other as if the ground might disappear. Parents pretended their smiles were steady. Strangers met for the first time, and others parted as if they were strangers again. Mira stood there every morning because it was the shortest way to the bakery where she worked. But she always walked fast, head down, unwilling to linger in a place that reminded her how temporary everything was. That morning was different because Arjun was there. He stood near the edge of the platform, shoulders tense, one hand wrapped around a worn leather bag. His hair was still damp, as if he had run all the way from home, and his eyes kept darting between the clock and the tracks. When he saw Mira, relief flashed across his face, followed quickly by something heavier, something like fear. "You came," he said, as if he had doubted it until the very last second. "I said I would," Mira replied, though her voice betrayed her. It shook in a way she didn't recognize. She crossed her arms, not against the cold, but against the storm inside her chest. "You didn't have to call me so early." Arjun smiled, small and apologetic. "I didn't trust myself not to lose my nerve." They stood in silence for a moment, listening to the distant rumble of an approaching train. Steam hissed somewhere down the line, creeping closer, wrapping the station in a fog that softened the harsh edges of metal and concrete. Mira wondered if this was how endings always came, disguised as something ordinary. They had met 3 years earlier in that same bakery, when Arjun walked in soaked from the rain, laughing at his own clumsiness. He ordered tea, then stayed for 2 hours, talking as if time were something optional. Mira had learned that day that he was an engineer who fixed things most people forgot about. Old boilers, aging rail systems, machines that only mattered when they failed. He had learned that she baked because it made people pause, even for a moment, and that she had once dreamed of leaving the city, but never quite found the courage. Their love grew quietly. No grand gestures, no dramatic declarations, just shared mornings, burnt toast, late-night conversations about everything and nothing. It was the kind of love that felt safe, and because of that, it scared Mira more than anything she had ever known. The challenge came, the way it often does, without warning. Arjun was offered a job restoring a historic rail line in another country, a project so rare it could define his entire career. He came home that night, glowing with excitement and guilt, holding the offer letter like it might explode. "I don't want to go if it means losing you," he said. Mira had read the letter 3 times, her hand steady even as her heart pounded. "And I don't want to be the reason you don't become who you're meant to be." They argued softly at first, then fiercely, about distance, about timing, about dreams that didn't quite fit together. Mira had watched her mother give up everything for love and grow quietly resentful. Arjun had watched his father choose work over family and love with a regret that never faded. They were both afraid of becoming someone else's cautionary tale. In the end, no decision felt like the right one. So they chose the hardest option. Arjun would go, Mira would stay. They would let time and distance reveal what they were truly made of. Weeks turned into months. Calls became shorter, messages more careful. The love didn't disappear, but it changed, stretched thin by missed moments and unsaid fears. Mira threw herself into work, opening the bakery before dawn, closing it after dark. Arjun sent photos of old tracks being reborn, of sunsets over unfamiliar landscapes. Each picture felt like both a gift and a wound. The night before his return for a brief visit, Mira didn't sleep. She lay awake wondering whether seeing him again would heal her or break her all over. Now he stood in front of her, real and close, and she realized how much she had missed the sound of his breathing, the way he leaned in slightly when he was nervous. "The train leaves in 5 minutes," he said quietly. "I know." Steam rolled in thicker now, swallowing the far end of the platform. People moved like shadows. Arjun reached into his bag, his fingers trembling. "There's something I need to give you." Before Mira could protest, before she could brace herself, he pressed something into her hand and closed her fingers around it. Then the whistle blew, and the train surged forward, pulling him away as the steam rushed between them. "Mira!" he called, his voice breaking through the noise. "No matter what you decide, know that loving you has been the bravest thing I've ever done." And then he was gone. Her heart hammering, Mira opened her palm. Nestled against her skin was a simple ring, slightly worn, unmistakably his grandmother's. The woman who had taught him that love was not about possession, but presence. Tears blurred Mira's vision as the steam slowly cleared, revealing an emptier platform than before. She didn't move for a long time. When she finally did, she walked back through the city in a daze, the ring clenched tightly in her fist. At home, she sat on the edge of her bed and let herself feel everything she had been holding back. The fear of waiting, the fear of being left behind, the fear of choosing wrong. The challenge she faced then was not distance, but courage. Courage to decide what she wanted, not what was safe, not what was expected. 3 days later, Mira closed the bakery early. She packed a small bag, hands steady this time. At the station, the steam rose again, familiar and comforting. When the train doors opened, she stepped forward, the ring now warm on her finger. Months later, they stood together on a restored platform in a quiet town, watching the first train glide smoothly along the tracks Arjun had helped rebuild. Mira had found a new rhythm, baking in the mornings, writing in the afternoons, learning that dreams could expand instead of replacing each other. Arjun took her hand, intertwining their fingers. "Funny," he said softly. "All that steam, all that noise, and still we found our way." Mira smiled, her eyes shining. "Maybe that's the point. Love doesn't need perfect clarity. It just needs us to keep choosing each other." As the train disappeared into the distance, leaving only a whisper of steam behind, Mira understood the true weight of the ring. It was not a promise that everything would be easy. It was a promise that even when the world blurred and paths diverged, love could still emerge, steady and strong, if you were brave enough to step through the steam. Chapter 2. When the Steam Settled. The first real test came not with distance, but with silence. Not the comforting quiet of early mornings or shared glances, but the heavy kind that settles between two people when they are afraid to speak the wrong truth. Mira learned this within weeks of arriving in the new town. The excitement of reunion faded into routine, and routine revealed cracks neither of them had fully prepared for. Living together was different from missing each other. Arjun woke before sunrise, leaving the house with the same hurried energy Mira remembered from the station. His work consumed him, the old rail line demanding long hours and constant problem-solving. When he came home, his eyes were tired, his hands smelling of metal and oil. He listened when Mira spoke, but sometimes his mind drifted back to tracks and measurements, deadlines and expectations. Mira tried to be patient. She told herself this was the life she had chosen. She baked in a small rented kitchen, selling her bread at a local market where people spoke with unfamiliar accents and smiled politely but cautiously. Some days she felt proud of her bravery. Other days she felt invisible. The challenge was loneliness, sharper because she was no longer alone. One evening, after a long day where nothing had gone right, Mira placed dinner on the table and waited. Minutes passed, then an hour. When Arjun finally arrived, his phone rang before he even sat down. He answered it, speaking rapidly, turning his back without realizing it. Something inside Mira snapped. "Am I part of your life here?" she asked, her voice steady but hollow. "Or just something you brought along?" Arjun froze. He ended the call slowly and turned to face her. The hurt in her eyes shocked him more than anger ever could. "That's not fair," he said, defensive. I'm doing this for us. I didn't ask you to disappear from me, she replied. I asked you to walk with me. The argument that followed was the worst they had ever had. Old fears resurfaced. Mira accused him of choosing work the way his father had. Arjun accused her of not understanding what this opportunity meant. Words were thrown like weapons, sharp and careless. That night, they slept facing opposite walls. Morning brought no easy forgiveness. Steam rose from Arjun's coffee cup as he stared into it, lost. Mira watched him from across the room, the ring heavy on her finger. She realized love was not just about grand decisions, but daily ones. Choosing patience, choosing humility, choosing to listen. I'm scared, she said quietly, breaking the silence. Scared that one day I'll wake up and realize I've become a shadow in your life. Arjun looked up, truly looked, and the defensiveness melted. And I'm scared, he admitted, that if I stop moving, I'll lose everything I've worked for, including you. They sat there, fear laid bare between them. No accusations this time, no running. The resolution didn't come as a dramatic promise. It came as a plan. Boundaries, evenings without phones. One day a week that belonged only to them. Arjun learned to leave work at the door. Mira learned to voice her needs before they turned into resentment. Progress was slow, imperfect, real. Months passed. Mira's baking found a following. People began asking for her by name. Arjun's project neared completion, the tracks finally humming with life. They argued sometimes, but now they fought for understanding instead of victory. One foggy morning, standing together as another train passed, Mira realized the steam no longer scared her. It no longer felt like something that erased paths, but something that softened them. She squeezed Arjun's hand. I don't need certainty, she said, just honesty. He smiled, tired but sure. Then we'll keep choosing that. The steam lifted, revealing the tracks stretching forward, imperfect but connected. And for the first time since stepping onto that platform months ago, Mira felt not just brave, but at home.